This podcast will discuss various things from mostly NASCAR to we'll get into some things like MLB playoffs, football, so on. But yeah, let's dive into this and see where we can go. Thanks for joining me. So the first thing I want to discuss about is last week, Talladega. I wasn't able to watch it, but I listened to it, and there were some things that it seemed out that a lot of people have already been talking about. It seems as though a lot of people didn't want to race hard. They were afraid of wrecking because of the way this new car is. Can't blame them, honestly. So we'll see what goes on, especially in some of these other races, and hopefully NASCAR can get this thing fixed out next year so people will not be worried about this. One thing that kind of got me was the caution at the end of the race, of the Cup race on Sunday, with the 16 car just sitting there. A lot of people had their head scratching on that. I mean, that brings me back to what happened at the truck race on Saturday afternoon when Hocevar just stopped. And they called the caution for that, and then they penalized him. It's like, why not penalize the 16 too? Or, what the case was. I know some people say that he didn't have power, but was he just... It's just curious to say the least because he wasn't affecting the racetrack at all, unlike the 42 truck Saturday. So hopefully things change out and we'll pan out and see what happens going forward this week. Starting today, actually, we have activities happening at the Roval, and that is the last race of the round of 12. Then we move into the round of 8. Looking at the playoff results now, it looks like we have in the below the cutoff, you got Briscoe, Cindric, Bell, and Bowman. Unfortunately, with what's going on with Bowman, doesn't look like he's going to be able to make it. It's going to be interesting to see if we can get a winner out of Bell, Cindric, or Briscoe, or if something big happens to some of the other guys up there. You have sitting 7th, 8th, Byron and Suarez. Byron's a big one after what happened with the appeal process yesterday, where they did not take any points away. They just fined him, which I think is suitable, seeing, in my opinion, they didn't really do anything to Denny Hamlin over the past few weeks with Chastain and their little feud they had. I mean, everybody will say Chastain made enemies, and yeah, okay, I'll go with you on that. But some of the stuff that Denny did on the track was kind of silly, and it's... in my opinion, he probably should have gotten punished for some of it. He was sitting there fighting back and forth with a guy when he didn't need to. So we'll see what happens going forward, see if that feud sparks up, because Ross has not made many friends with anybody else. And I kind of like it. It brings back some old racing style things. But hey, it's not the new racing, I guess. Going into other news, we already discussed Byron and his change in penalties for what's going on after the appeals with what he did under caution to Denny Hamlin 2 weeks ago. The number 4 team got fined and penalized big time for messing around with things on the car of a single source part. With the new car, NASCAR, as you guys know, you can't mess with anything on the car. You get the parts directly from them and put it on. And they made unapproved modifications. So Rodney Childers is out for 4 races. They fined him also $100,000 and deducted 100 points from Kevin Harvick and from the number 4 car for the driver standings, as well as the owner standings, which is kind of interesting because they took back Truex's car too, the 19 car. I think they might have done something because of the comments that they made. Now, I know I'm kind of grasping at straws here, but it does raise questions whenever you have two drivers that have come out publicly and said crappy parts from NASCAR has caused their cars to end the races. You got Harvick a while back catching on fire when he really shouldn't have. You have Truex blowing a power steering pump at Bristol, and you didn't really see those things back in the day as much as you are now, especially like the tires going out, whether that's this car, the way the independent suspension's working, all that stuff. Who knows? Anyway, yeah. So that's that's interesting to see, and we'll see what else happens from there. Again, I think NASCAR needs to fix this whole car throughout, but they're probably wise not to do it right in the middle of the playoffs because that could really muck things up, and you don't really want to do that. So we'll see what happens. Going on to other news, we have news that I think it's in Las Vegas. Hallie Deegan's going to be running an Xfinity car, which I think is interesting and fun. A lot of people don't really like her from what I've seen, just perusing social media, and I know they might just be venting, but hopefully she can show her worth. She has an SRX, in my opinion. I think just with DGR and the trucks, they might be holding back the reins some while she still learns. I think it's time to let those go and see what she can do. She competed well in ARCA with the other guys, so why not? So that ought to be fun. That's Vegas. I can't remember what car number she is running, but that'll be fun. Also, good news for Kaulig Racing and the 16 car. They have their full-time driver next year. They're going to be moving up and promoting AJ Allmendinger, which that's great. I love the guy. He's fun. He's fun to watch. His comments are great. Um, yeah, that'll be a good move for them. Hopefully, they can kind of make the second year bump up similar to what Trackhouse has been doing this year. I mean, in my opinion, Trackhouse is phenomenal with Abel going out and winning races with two drivers and competing. And I think when you got somebody like Allmendinger, and no disrespect to Gregson and Hemrick and all the other guys that have ran the 16 car, but when you have the consistency and stableness of a driver for the whole race, especially the caliber of Allmendinger, we'll see what happens. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to that. So, um, also in the news, I noticed, and this is kind of a lighthearted, but it's pretty awesome too. Yesterday night, Thursday the 6th, Corey LaJoy hosted his second annual kickball classic over at the Kannapolis Cannonballers minor league baseball field. That was awesome. I watched that on YouTube. It was great. It's awesome to see everything happening. Donations to Samaritan's Feet. They raised $50,000, and the owner of Built came back and matched it. So $100,000 going to Samaritan's Feet. That is awesome. If you don't know too much about Samaritan's Feet, you got to go check them out. They help less fortunate people and impoverished areas that can't get shoes and help them improve their health ultimately doing that. So that ought to be fun. They said they're going to be back next year as well. So we'll see what happens. Roval's coming up. We already discussed playoffs. Roval, I'm hit or miss on it. We'll see what happens with the new car. I find it interesting. Last week people said, "Oh, we can't pass. We can't pass unless you're in the top four or top three. You can't really pass." And I think I heard that on DBC, and so we'll see what happens there. I've noticed throughout a lot of the races that we've had where it's been difficult passing, whether that's just the challenge of the racing or if it's the car itself and the setup and just the difficulty of getting things just overall running. I don't know. But we'll see what happens with the Roval and how it goes. It's always an interesting race. I personally liked, I think back in the COVID year, whenever they ran at Daytona, which is a similar style setup. That's the 24-hour race track that they ran. So that was fun. It was fun to watch. I assume it was challenging and fun to be there as well. I don't know. So we'll see what happens this week. Just looking at the betting odds here, it looks like they might be putting, let's see who they have going forward as the favorite. Looks like maybe Joey Logano is the favorite to win this race. That'll be interesting. I see Chase up there competing. I see, Blaney up there competing, Larson, those guys. We'll see what happens with that. I'm disappointed with how the driver that I follow the most, the 19 car, has been running this year. Whether it's crew chief mishaps on pit road, just this car in general. They were one of the guys I was kind of upset with last week, whenever they ran in the back. And I remember hearing on the radio on MRN, they were saying, or hearing on the radio that they were saying that they just wanted to ride in the back and be safe. They didn't do anything. I think they were fearful of wrecks, but also I don't know if they have a full grip on this car. I don't know who to blame for that, whether it's just they're having a tough time on the learning curve, but I've also noticed some mishaps, and again, armchair crew chiefing, some mishaps with what's been going on in their strategies. It's been very questionable in my opinion. But again, I'm the armchair crew chief, and they're the ones up there making the big bucks and making the decisions. So it's only my time to speculate. So moving forward, as I said earlier, I want this to be a mix, mostly NASCAR, but a mix of any other podcasts. So I wanted to bring up the playoffs because we got MLB playoffs starting today, Friday. That ought to be interesting to see what happens, see what Judge can do, if he can pull off his run to keep going with his home runs and so on. See if the Dodgers make it back. See if the Astros make it back. I believe I read somewhere that the Astros and Dodgers are the top two contenders for making it back to the World Series. We have the addition of the extra wild card seed, which makes it another round, similar to, I guess, what we had back in the early 2000s and 90s with that second round, and then you have your number one seeds having a bye. So the bye, or number one's in two, so you have Yankees, Astros having a bye, as well as the Dodgers, and I'm not familiar with who's got the other bye, but it ought to be fun. It ought to be interesting. We'll see what happens. It starts tonight. We have the higher seed team keeping the home field advantage throughout the 3 games they have. So anyway, that's that. And we'll see and go forward. So I wanted to personally thank everybody for listening to this podcast. This one was really short. I want to kind of make them short so you can listen to them quickly, get a quick rundown. I might elaborate more into things, but this is a big one for everybody for myself to try to put out there. I've always set myself yelling at other podcasters, wanting to put my opinion out there. So this is my opinion. I hope this can expand out to something else. And thanks for listening to the Armchair Crew Chief. And it is its first podcast. I hope you will continue to stick around as I try to put out podcasts weekly. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.